very smoothly. I think the schools were ready. They were prepared. They'd done their work. They'd put in their summer hours and were ready to roll. And I just pay tribute to the staff across the district that's done a great job in starting another school year. Today is our first CCR day, College Career Ready Day, and it is a little different than it has traditionally been. And maybe I will just remind the board exactly why that is. Traditionally, we have always taken this day off of school. It's been a no school day for students, and then students and teachers have come to the buildings and visit us, and they've had all day to do that. And this year we changed that to a half a day of school, and then we made the CCR part where the parents are coming in from 1 to 4, or some are stretching it even a little further. But we felt that was appropriate. And by doing that, we took that day out of school and we put a teacher prep day at the end of first quarter and at the end of first semester. And we believe our teachers have been looking for more time for preparation, and especially between the quarters, and that'll provide that for them. So we're excited about that. So be aware that's why that shift was made, was to find a way to have some more teacher preparation time. But again, just in spotlighting, a tribute again to TES and Navajo Mountain, and a huge shout out to all the schools who have started the year off on the right foot. And it's been a great start to the year. Just wanted the board to know that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the superintendent?
Just a comment real quick on the exiting of the 2 schools. I give my appreciation to everybody that was involved in it, starting at the district office to the staff and personnel. So I appreciate it very much. Those are my 2 schools that I represent. So
Thank you. Also, just a real quick note. So I attended the in-service, that's what I would call it, which they had the very first teacher day when the teachers came back down at San Juan High. And, got to spend the whole day there. I felt it was a highly effective day. Each school went into their own class with their teachers and had highly effective, I would call it instruction. Maybe instruction is the word.
They had prepared since last April to fill 3 to 3.5 hours of helping them move to the next level in the highest priorities that they determined on their own. So that would tie right back to their 90-day plan. What's your next highest priorities? How do you move forward on those? And they had worked with their leadership teams all the way from April till that day. So there has been a lot of prep work. So you got to see the actual business in hand as they work through it that day. And
That was great.
Speak to that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. And I think the district they put together, I mean, all the stuff, it was a great day. I felt there was a lot that was accomplished and I was glad I could attend. So thank you for that.
Appreciate that.
Okay, we will move to our discussion items. So Shannon, you're going to come up and we've had this policy. This is policy
You have a
5310.
chair right there if you want to sit in
Yes.
or stand. How do you feel more comfortable?
Either one. I like standing.
Okay,
Good afternoon. I'm happy to be with you guys. My name is Shannon Dusnev, and I am the district library coordinator. Last month I came to the board with a draft of a school library policy revision due to the passing of HB 374. They had required that we have an updated policy in place. We discussed that policy, and towards the end, there is a section on the appeals process. And as I discussed with the board, the appeals process went straight from the school committee to the school board. And as we discussed and came to the agreement that you guys wanted an extra committee step in there. So I went ahead and we worked on revising this, and we have it today. Hopefully you all should have it. The appeals process where you did put in that extra step of having a district committee. So I wanted to read through that for you guys so that you guys can look at that. And then I'm hoping at some point, I don't know how it all works, that we can get this approved. I do know that they are asking from the state, we are supposed to submit our district library policy to them by October 1st. Okay.
State deadline.
That's the state deadline. So the appeals process, I'm just going to go straight there. We have the original requester may appeal the determination of the review committee in writing to the school principal within 10 business days of receipt of the review committee's final determination using the district appeal request form. So I have created that also. There is a hot link. There should be a link to the very, very bottom. Almost, there you go, up a little bit more. We'll get there.
Right there.
No, that one's the second one. Go up. We're on step number 1. So keep going up a little bit right there. The district appeal request form. Okay, so there's a link there. Pull up. And it's very similar to it's very similar to the original appeal form. So you can look through that. It has the same information there. Then they use that. And when an appeal is filed with the school principal, it will be sent to one of the assistant superintendents who will convene a district level committee to act as the district appeal committee. The district appeal committee will include a reasonable and an odd number of individuals. Members of the committee will include a facilitator, which will be one of the assistant superintendents, representatives from the district curriculum team who did not serve on the original committee, and a reasonable number of parents of current students in the district that are reflective of the district community. We added that piece in there to make sure that we're following HB 374. The district appeal committee will follow the same steps listed above for the library materials review process. So they're going to follow the exact same steps that the school level did. Then the original requester may appeal the determination of the district review committee in writing, if you go through that process and they want to appeal it, to one of the assistant superintendents within 10 business days of receipt of the appeal committee's final determination using the board appeal request form, which we have a link there, and it's basically the same form, only we've changed this is the board appeal request form. Okay, it's got the same information. And then when an appeal is filed with one of the assistant superintendents, the San Juan School Board will act as the appeals committee. The San Juan School Board may add parents or school administrative members who did not participate in any of the review committees, only as necessary to have an odd number of members. And then the San Juan School Board will follow the same steps listed above for the library materials review process. So we're all following the same process. It's just different committees and different levels of committees. So any questions that I can answer about any of this?
I have a question. I think I go to superintendent. I thought we had a review committee or at the district level, somebody to look at the scholastics of the books before they were brought into the. Do you remember that, Mary? Did we have that for, or is that still in place? Other than
You're talking curriculum or are you talking library books?
I think that was correct. You're right.
Curriculum, we always have a committee that will go through a process to really vet all of the different phasals that we are considering. Then they bring, after they've done all of their work, they bring a recommendation to the school board of what they are recommending, and the school board is responsible for the basal tier 1 instruction in our classrooms. So this is just looking at our library books that are in here that normally do not go through that same process. We do have, we do also take great interest in what books we put in our library. It works through our library supervisor down. She works closely with our librarians, and they do put thought and effort into, what books would be, successful and attractive to our youth. And they do some vetting even right at that point.
We do continually training. I continually train and meet regularly with the library specialists, the librarians in the schools. In fact, we had a meeting yesterday and we went over this policy and we went over the selection criteria on what we're looking for. for books to go in our library. And I showed them the sources because we have, as librarians, we have resources, the professional reviewed book reviews. We have access to those. So I showed them how to find those so they can look at the book reviews for the materials they're looking at purchasing for libraries.
And once a book gets set on our shelf, it has rights. The book actually, there's free speech rights now that are entitled to that book. And so even this policy, it was debated quite a bit at the state level between if you remove a book, even through this policy, you could stand to still have some litigation risk through someone suing for free press and free speech rights. But if you don't have this policy, then you stand to have risk from the state saying you're not in compliance with state law. So they talked a lot about how that choose your poison, so to speak here. It's my recommendation that we pass this policy and that we try to deal sensitively through these other issues. But be aware that this is a very complex issue, very complicated. And it has been in a couple of districts. We have not seen it in our district, but there's a couple of districts that have really seen the complexity to this situation.
And there are some districts that have followed litigation because they had a policy in place, but they didn't follow it. So we're trying to make sure this is very clear. I've worked with the librarians for the process. I'll be working with the principals and training them and making sure that everybody knows the process, that this is the process we follow in our district as it's our policy.
So clarification, if there's a book that's questionable and we never put it in any of our libraries, then we're fine. But once we put it in our library, it is like book banning because
Yes.
well,
Once it
that's
goes on the
discouraging.
shelf, it is an interesting process to, we do weed our books. That's part of a librarian's job.
That's in here.
And that
Weeding
is
is
so-
in here.
But in the process of somebody coming in and saying, I want that book removed, that is different than the weeding process. That is a whole different process and it can become very complex of whether you can just take that book, say, oh, I didn't know it was offensive, we'll just take it right off the shelf. Absolutely not. That gets very sticky in a lot of different legal situations. And it's come up in this state, it's come up in other states across the country. There's a lot of political issues that are wrapped up in this that have somewhat of a driving force in some of these things. But that's what's playing out here. That's what's causing even this litigation to be passed, in my opinion. And the state's trying to maneuver as well as they can, kind of a middle road. And they've asked us to do, and they've developed a model policy that goes down that middle road. And we have adopted almost all of the state's model policy right here. So that's what you see right here is the model state policy. And I think it's the safest road to travel. But I would want the board to know that in the event that if we ended up in a similar situation as a couple of districts, that policy does not necessarily mean we have no at risk at all, any risk at all. We still have risk through a legislative process so just be aware that it's still definitely very complex.
One more.
Mhm.
So in today's world, you've got kids getting on electronics, videos, music. It's a problem out there. But are there videos in the library? Who monitors that? Does that?
That all would fall under the materials, under this policy. It all follows under that.
All right, this will come on as an action item later, and thank you for adapting to what we have requested. We appreciate
No
that.
problem.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah. This is kind of similar.
Yeah, mine's a lot of
Good
what
hours.
Shannon said.
Yeah.
I sit down. So-
Yes.
So whoever's viewing online is not looking at my stomach. All right, so I have the the 5320, the instructional resources curriculum adoption. So this is classroom books that are actually being used in our curriculum. And the changes that we made, two that were suggested by the board was to just do a find and replace for parents and do parents and guardians. So we did that. And then the second one was to add the appeals process. And really what I did was add, if an appeal is filed with the school principal, it will be sent to one of the assistant superintendents who will follow the process outlined by Shannon. So it just kicks back, and we figured there was no reason to have two different processes for looking at books. If we're gonna convene a committee to look at a book, it's the same. And then the third change that I made on here was at the behest of the superintendent, was to just clarify in 5320.2, where it says textbook and curriculum adoption. It just clarifies that the board has final say on curriculum that's adopted. So it says the district curriculum team and the relevant academic team will review curricular options and make recommendations to the Board of Education, who has sole legal responsibility to approve and adopt district curriculum. Just to clarify the roles in there and who has the final responsibility. Any questions on that one?
No. Anything else? Did you write those? Okay,
All right.
thanks, we appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Oh, Lucille, Lucille, can you hear us? Lucille?
Yeah, it's almost 3.
All right. Okay, we are going to go to our Utah Food Bank. Thank you for joining us.
We do have, they're well represented here today. We have Jeanette, who's the president.
President,
Of the Utah Food Bank, Jeanette Ott. We appreciate them being here. In our last meeting, you did direct Tyrell and myself to move forward with trying to develop the criteria that would be involved in a possible land exchange of allowing land to be purchased by the food bank to establish a food pantry. So we've put some time and effort into that. We've worked closely with Jeanette and her group. What you have attached there is you have a letter that is being presented to you that explains all of the offer, the formal offer that is being made to the San Juan School District. You have a footprint of how the building would sit in, on our property, well, our present property, but if we were to exchange the land, you have a footprint of how the pantry would be established down in the corner down there, so you can kind of visualize it. One change has been that I think we talked about 3/4 an acre, and this is talking about 1 acre. And when we looked at that, when Jeanette, her architects and those that put that together looked at that, to get it wide enough to be able to access the semis and those that come into the land, and the depth, there was no reason to have some land at the back because it was just going to go back and border Utah, Navajo Health. So we didn't want a gap back there that would be landlocked, that would be basically useless land. But to run it all the way back to there, it works out to 1 acre, and that makes it more usable for the food bank with what they need. So it is 1 acre. You also have the price that is being offered at $250,000 for that acre. If you remember, board, when we get to a formal, what's the word I'm looking for? A formal appraisal. Thank you. You had me. A few years back when we did the land exchange with the Utah Navajo Trust, that was $586,000 for 5 acres. So if you look at that, I think, and you kind of break that down in any way you want to, I think we felt, Tyrell and I visiting, felt like that was a very fair offer for us as a district for 1 acre. And the other major criteria that was in this offer was that should, in any reason, the food bank abandoned the property or abandoned that site, they failed to operate on that site, the land would reinvert back to the San Juan School District. So there is some safety in that clause as well. So we feel like, you know, we're bringing this information back to you. It is on here as an action item. Both Tyrell and I believe, would recommend that we move forward with developing a contract unless the board, for any reason at this point, feels that they don't want to move that way. But in our assessment, this is a win-win for us. It's a win-win for the community that's going to have a food bank right there. You know, there was some concern of, oh, they will have their own access. That's one other point I wanted to point out. There was some concern of, you know, what we presently see in that area is when the food trucks come, is a long line of cars on that day. This will completely alleviate that, as they'll be open multiple hours on multiple days. So there will not be that one time we all have to get there, you know, kind of rush. And that will be nice for the community to control some of that pressure. But they actually have their own access as well. So it should not in any way cause us any concerns with our road coming into the health clinic into the school. Any questions or concerns from the board? Tyrell, anything you'd add to that?
I think you covered most of it.
I again just would say, you know, as we looked at it and talked, we felt if this land deal was going to go through, this was very fair to all parties involved. So it'd be our recommendation if the board is inclined to move forward.
Any questions? And your entry has been approved by UDOT, the right of way? Yes. You think?
I have no question.
And the other part of this is there's no financing to do, so the contract and issue the check, so the financial piece is very easy for us to complete. Joe has joined us on every meeting. We've got Danny here to be in the event you had questions on the position of that property or any assistance that we couldn't answer. So thank you to them for joining us, but thank you to all of you for your time and your patience with us as we brought this to this point. I'm anxious to know what your final decisions will be for this. So thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you. Anything else? Okay. All right, we will move to number 4, capital plan development. Tyrell.
Right. So last month we talked about House Bill 475 and that funding opportunity that may become available to small school districts. The committee, the panel did meet last month for the first time to kind of finalize what the application process looks like for those few districts that do qualify. That application process has not been finalized. When I reached out to USBE last week, I was informed that they plan on meeting this first or middle part of September, so probably this week or next, to finalize what that application looks like. In your board docs under the executive content, I kind of explained what that all means for us a little bit. Is just it makes it difficult for us at this point in time to really determine what our priorities are going to be in planning for those projects, because we don't know for sure what it's going to look like and how much we'll get. I did ask USBE if with this $50 million fund that is put in place, if we were to apply for it and not have a project that's, because right now we don't have a project that's, you know, in the pipeline ready to go with plans drawn up or anything like that for any of our major capital projects. And the response I got back is copied on the executive content that they would be giving priority to those projects that are ready to go, that are closer to starting, with the idea that the fund would be replenished each year in the legislative session, which is a big if, because if it is, then that's great. You know, those districts that have a project in line and apply for these smaller school districts and then get approved through the panel, and they were to utilize that fund, and then next legislative session it was to be refunded, and we would, you know, at that point have more of our plans in place. It would make that process a lot easier. We have access to those funds that help rural school districts that struggle with larger capital projects. But that's a big what if, and we don't know right now if it will be So again, it's kind of, we're at a standstill this month. I had hoped to bring back some more information for you from them, but with them not finalizing that application process, I don't really have anything more to report this month. Hopefully in October, we do have that application, what it looks like specifically. And to give you some ideas of what we could do with that application to apply for some funding through this rural school district grant opportunity for us, what that looks like. So that's kind of where we sit. Just as a follow-up, we have started looking at our fuel site upgrade and blending. So we've got some plans in place for that to move forward that you approved last month. And that's going and moving forward. And then as just another update, I think most of you are aware with our ARL project, with those first few weeks of school being really, really warm. Our units are expected to be here sometime late September, so this month, and hopefully we'll get those put in place, but we should definitely have heat for the winter with that project that took place this summer. And that was a big project and undertaking from a lot of different people that we're happy to get our students back into that building by the time school started. So just a couple of updates there. And then next month we'll bring this back with some more information, hopefully. Are there any questions on that at all?
So I have a question, because you said panel could approve a project that may not expend funds for a few years. Well, can we put on there that we do have a project? I mean, if you don't get the funds, you don't do the project, but we do have a project and we would go right into it considering we have the funds. Can we move that way?
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing is I think we could apply for whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that application looks like yet to say,
Sure.
you know, what the criteria is that we have to meet. But from the response and feedback that I've gotten from them and in my conversations with them and through email is that, you know, we could apply for anything. But the panel reviews all the applications that come in from any of the LEAs and gives priority to projects that they feel meet the reason for the bill that was passed and helping those projects that are ready to go. So they could fund us for something that we're not ready to start spending on until even next fiscal year. But the early indication is that the panel would give priority to those districts that have projects that they've been waiting on and preparing for. Wayne County School District is the one that they brought up, that they were a big proponent of the bill when it was passed in the legislative session this spring.
But I feel like a lot of our projects are sitting because we're not waiting for funds, but looking into ways to fund them.
Ways to,
So maybe if we put out there some urgency that, hey, we're sitting right here too. As long as you give us the fund, then we can go right ahead too.
Mhm.
And that's kind of what I would think. I mean, we should, instead of, if we get the funds, then we might start, which I know you wouldn't, but maybe, I don't know, maybe yes, we do have this, and this, we're just waiting for money.
Mhm.
Otherwise, we have to find a different source to do X, Y, Z.
Yeah, I think what some of them, because like some school districts are going to be submitting like architectural plans and
Oh, I
drawings
see.
with their application.
Yeah.
And we're not in a place of prepared to do that on anything really right now with those projects. So I think that's one of the hangups there. I don't know what every LEA is looking at, but I do know that, you know, like Wayne County School District has had that in their pipeline for a long time.
So we had talked about a little bit about Bonnie Elementary with either a major remodel or, because we had that conversation. I mean, what do we have information that we would really, not just conversation, but hey, we had talked about which is better, remodel, redo, because we're kind of in the balance on that one too.
And
So could that one go forward?
if you remember, and we probably have to put this out for bid, but we do have an idea that a bid to give us a really good evaluation of that building is not cheap. It's far more
Right.
expensive than we thought. We got just an estimate of, it was $70,000. So, we were a little bit taken back by that, but we've talked to a few people. I have anyway. I spoke with Joe. He's not here any longer, but I spoke with a few other people, and when you're going to spend possibly $30 to $40 million, maybe $70,000 to know you've gone the right way is not bad to spend. I don't know. We'd love for the board to maybe give us some direction on that of whether they wanted us to move forward with that type of an action. We could do that. That could be built into a budget. And that would, we would then have, some, we'd have correct knowledge of whether or not we should be looking at a remodel or we should take that off the table altogether.
Well, I
That
just would
is
hate to
BS.
see the money sitting there that we almost could have had. If maybe we're just a little bit more further ahead with doing something. I don't know. I don't know that answer.
And now, we may have talked about this and I can't remember. Will the grant money include money for remodels or just new builds?
So remodels will be included in that. Yeah,
That's what I was
they're
thinking, but
looking
I
at
just-
like improving student safety, efficiency of buildings,
So
projects like
small
that.
remodels, big remodels,
Sure.
it's all
Yeah, I
a
think,
possible option.
mhm.
So with this money standing, with it being a possible option for us and whether or not there will be money again, I would think we should do something to be a little bit more aggressive in having something, getting something to a point that we're ready to, it's our next project if we can have the funding that we're ready to go.
Recognize. Ready.
And I think, come October, I think we would be looking at it, because the application, they don't even have it finalized yet. And what, they haven't given us any inclination of what it looks like, but it's due November, beginning of November. So,
They do it, the process is due November?
yeah, so we have to submit the application by November. And then the panel reviews that December, and provides a recommendation to the State Board of Education, and USBE then makes the final decision on where the funds are allocated based on the panel's recommendation. So it's all a really tight timeline when you have no idea what the application looks like yet, for those projects. I mean, I would agree that I think, when that application comes out, we should be aggressive in making sure that we do apply for the funding, letting them know that, we are in.
So do we have the funds that we could get at least an evaluation on Blanding Elementary? Budget, I mean, we take it out of capital.
There's money available to do that. It wasn't built into our budget this year. But
Right.
there's capital reserve funds that we could access to do something like
I mean, I
that.
don't know.
And so to clarify, that's just to determine whether or not it's more cost effective to remodel or to
That, yep,
do a new build.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, I think it was on last month's agenda that we put that information. I don't remember if we put the
Mhm. It was
actual
attached.
attachment, but
Yeah.
it's a thorough evaluation, and they look at all different kinds of things from not just like the structural integrity of the building, but then also like the classroom efficiency and of the building, and is it set up for, modern education? It was pretty thorough what they were going to be looking at. With today's world, like some of our older buildings don't have the power and electricity that sometimes is required with the way we've moved towards electronic devices and learning in the classroom. So they were going to look at all of that and then put all of that together to give a recommendation on remodel or replacement as well.
Well, I don't know how Nelson and Steve felt, but I'm feeling like we should kind of get out there front and see what we can get if that money's there. I mean, I may not be there next time. It might be a one-time deal.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, you got money sitting there and I hate to go back or wherever it came from and we lose out. But it's worth, I think it's worth to take the chance of getting those appraisals done and estimates done. So we can get started on it.
We had two priorities. They were when we did present our capital plan, there were two at the top. That was BES and our transportation, whole unit over there, our department. And then also one of that was very high on there was the safety entrances of about 4 of our buildings that still, such as this one right here, that are not set up to funnel, those that are visiting or coming into the school, so that you really know who's entering your building and you can control that flow. So, I mean, those 3 projects, I think, would be at the top of the list to possibly be used in this type of an application, whichever one fit the best. And that we won't know that until we see the application and the criteria.
And from early indications, we could even submit for all three.
That's what I would say.
But then it's just tougher for the panel to decide what they allocate to this, to LEAs. Because I mean, if the 12 LEAs that qualify all submit multiple projects, then it's a matter of prioritizing, say, okay, well, we'll fund this one. And that's the unknowns. That's we may not, we may. do it,
Well, and
but
then
could
we
apply
put
for
our
multiple.
priority. I mean, this is
Yeah.
our very, very number one. This is our second.
I-
this is our
yeah.
third.
I just think
Okay.
that they might ask us to, or expect us to put our priority at the top.
Sure.
I know
So, any
it's,
thoughts, Steve? All right, so I think just get a direction from us on that.
It is on as an action item if
Okay.
we wanted to revisit that. Later on, just if you wanted to provide an action or if you wanted to just give us direction. you can-
I think the thing
Go
we've
ahead.
struggled a little bit with is in our discussions is the 70, the 70,000 estimate of really evaluating that fee as building. We just didn't, we aren't experts in this area certainly. And so we've struggled with, is that a good step forward or is that not? We don't want to spend $70,000 and have it be questioned. So anyway, if
That's
there was any
also
direction in that, that would be helpful. to us.
going to take some time
Yeah,
in that evaluation. So it's a rebuild or is it a, new build, and that information might not be available for us
Yeah,
for
I don't know.
months,
It might not.
maybe spring, who knows what this, company that
wherever we
does that.
select.
What if you go forward with a rebuild like we talked about, and then, I mean, we can change that. I mean, let's say that we get the money and then down the road, we do the evaluation. We say, let's take the 70,000, do the evaluation, and then we know, because if it's gonna take that long, we don't know by November 1st. At least let's just head in one direction to get what we can, and then,
or just to do the new
Tweak it.
build, new construction.
yeah,
Is that what it's
just
like
head in one
apply-
direction and then,
apply for the-
yeah.
Apply for funding as if we were going
For
to.
new
because if we're gonna
construction.
rebuild, then we could always, say in the spring, because I would think we would have to kind of evaluate that building anyway. And then so many months down the road, we'd have more information to really make that decision. So I think I don't know that we need an action item, just go ahead
For a
and
new build.
go for the new build and get as much information and the application as you can.
So hold off on the,
Well, unless you can get
Evaluate.
it done,
I don't know that it would be, I don't think it would be done in
so.
time for the November
So
application,
if it's
but
not done, then hold off on that, but go ahead with, like, we're going
Just
just
for
for
new construction.
new construction.
kind of,
For the number of students, we can calculate, have a good idea of how much it would cost to rebuild for new construction. That
we have that
information's
estimate
out.
also.
Right, so
Yeah.
that's there. That would be the,
And that
where
is,
said that would be the.
That was over,
Simplify
40, I
it.
think it was 40.
right at $40 million.
Yeah.
is what that is.
So go with that. Then we'll know what we get from the application. And then if we say, oh, we only got 10 million, then we may have to say, okay, well, let's pull back and maybe reevaluate and look into a rebuild or remodel. But at least we know what we've gotten from the application process. So I'd go ahead and
Okay.
apply.
Yeah, so don't worry about doing the evaluation at this point.
Mm-mm.
And then in October, I will, hopefully the panel better have the
Sure.
application done by then, by our October board meeting, but I will bring that information to you and we'll plan on moving forward with putting together the information that the application requires for multiple projects. And we'll bring that information to the board meeting in October.
That'd be great.
And then that way you'll have a chance to see what that looks like and what information they're asking for and what we'll provide and submitting.
Perfect.
Well, these architectural firms that we worked with and others that other schools work with, they've got to have a building for X number of kids that we could say, we want that one. And with as many elementary schools are being built in Utah and other places right now, then to have a cookie cutter architectural plan, they've got to be out there. They've got to be ready to go with maybe a little bit of variation, but
I would
we
say,
wouldn't have to start from, you shouldn't have to start from the ground up. That ought to be, that's one of the things that I believe it's the legislature brought up recently is those ought to be, you know, like house plans that you look through and say, here, we want this one. Have you looked at that? That they,
Yeah, so we did reach out because MHTN was the architecture firm that designed our last couple of
Mhm.
buildings. And so we've reached out to them about Blanding Elementary specifically, and that was the estimate we received was from them to build a new school. They gave us a cost estimate to build a new school for a couple of different locations. And so that came from them with kind of a similar type build to what we've done in our district, but it's on a much larger scale because instead of serving, you know, the smaller number of students, we're talking 500 to 600 students at Blinding Elementary. So it's a lot larger scale, but it's patterned and modeled after our previous builds. So yeah, that we've done that work, that little bit of legwork with architecture firms. That's not to say that there could be something else out there, but that's what
and that's what
we've
I'm
used.
saying. There's, you know, hundreds of schools that are, well, I don't know, hundreds, but probably close to.
Our last 3
100.
schools have kind of followed a cookie cutter.
Yeah, they've
We
all been
built through.
patterned. very
But
similar.
even in today's world, when even those architects will tell you some of the highest variables, it's all based on at the moment. So it's hard to put your finger on, you know, you can't just say that's gonna cost you that amount because
Well,
building
right,
materials have gone 60% in the last.
and that's not what I'm talking about, is the cost as much as they've got so many plans out there already for
yeah.
that number of students that it shouldn't,
Like, we should have a plan to submit.
yeah,
Some
there,
degree,
and
we
there
should
would
have
be
something
easy
to
to have
Well,
a building that we could submit if that's what we need.
Or even
Because
estimate.
they are, they're all over the place. as
I'm
far
not
as-
aware that they'll just, I don't know how it all works, but I know somehow they get their money out. I'm not aware that they just say, here's a plan and we've already put it all together. It'll save you thousands of dollars to just take this. And we won't have to, you know, we don't, they draw those plans up for a profit and I don't know how it all works. Once, I don't know, for instance, the plans we have drawn for like TES, Moselle, those are, I'm assuming we have property right over those plans. You can't just see that building pop up in Logan exactly like us. I don't know. I'm just wondering how that all works.
I don't think so.
The
It's
design
like
of the
any-
building, the design of
you
the building, no, but the layout, the floor plan,
Yeah,
maybe.
but you still gotta
but you
pay
still
for an
have to go through that
architectural
and
firm.
Pay for it just like you do.
Right,
at
you'd
home.
still buy it because they own it. I'm just saying, we don't have to start from scratch. It's, and the legislature, there has been, that conversation's gone on at the legislature. Why are school districts spending so much money having them, building these schools that start from scratch? Because the elementary schools, they're going up like crazy all over Utah and all over the country. Why not have, you know, here's a bank of plans and you look through the bank of plans and you say, we want to purchase this one, just like you would purchase, anyway, it should work that way. Whether it not does or not, I'm not sure.
They've had
But
that
it
discussion,
should.
but it didn't drive
It
any
should
change.
work that way.
It didn't drive any change because there was 2 sides to the discussion. I remember following that
Because,
discussion. pretty
you know, and with home plan,
But-
just still buy a home plan, even though it's already,
You know, I have a brother
In there.
that paints for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints all over. They have and he tells me all the time how they do theirs. You are gonna do exactly what you just said. The church has like 3 or 4 different models and they're gonna choose one to go in your community. And they've got all the plans drawn up, they know everything, they know how many nails it's gonna take. But I don't know, what I'm saying is I don't know that they'll sell it to us that way because
We
someone
can
drew
check.
those up.
we can ask, hey, do you have one for this year? How many schools do you have? Anyway.
Yeah,
We
we
could-
can
we
ask,
could
but
check.
they wouldn't make their money. I don't think they're gonna sell
No,
it
they'd
that
still
way.
sell it to us,
Well, unless they sell for about as much as it's gonna take to
probably
draw it
would.
up, because they're not gonna.
but it would be quicker.
so.
Well, at least you have an estimate, so you can submit that. So, okay. All right, let's go to Utah State Minot Valley lease agreement. Superintendent, or Tyrell, sorry,
Me.
that'd be you.
So, a year ago, actually, I think we were here when Christian presented and the board approved, the superintendent and I to start working with Utah State University on that specific portion of our property, Minot Valley, to put a campus on. And so you have the lease agreement in your board docs. The very bottom kind of shows you the area that was approved by the board in September of last year. We've been working with Utah State. There's been a few different hurdles that they've had to come over. I've worked with legal counsel on drafting this lease agreement. It's modeled after other lease agreements that we've done in the area previously. And so that's the lease agreement that you're seeing there in front of you. If there's any questions about it, I'm happy to take those, but that's kind of where we're at. We're looking to get this approved so that Utah State can move forward with their construction on that parcel. That parcel is up in the northwest corner of our property in Monument Valley. And they've designed the building, they've gone through all that. They're now ready to start moving forward. So that's why we're finally been able to get this lease agreement drafted and ready to put into place. Were there any questions about the language in the agreement? I can try to answer for you.
I do.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I think we're good.
I will, one other thing that I will bring up, there has been, I visited with, well, I got an email from Utah State from, his name's Chris Nelson. He's the director of business operations for the university. They did ask, and it's already in our lease agreement. I believe it is number 7, assignment and subleasing. They requested that we allow for that. This number 7 allows for the district in writing to consent to sublease the property, because the way they're financing their property or their project, sorry, in order to build this is a really complicated financing project that requires them to sublease the property to a community development entity, but they would assume all the same restrictions that are in our lease agreement, and then it gets reverted back to Utah State after a number of years. So they asked that we, the simplicity of it was that they asked for the allowance to sublease the land, which we've done in the past. That's what our agreements have looked like in the past. It does allow us to sublease as long as they are willing to accept all the same terms of the lease agreement. And so that provision has always been in our lease agreements in the past. So just keep that in mind, but other than that, it's the same.
All right. I think we can move to number 6. We've got about 10 minutes before we have those.
Okay, number 6, we don't need to address. We did put it on there in case we did need to bring it
No,
back,
we don't need to.
but no,
Oh, no information on that.
it was passed by
Oh, okay.
Montrose. They had postponed passing it in their last meeting,
Oh,
but it was revisited and passed in their most recent city council meeting. So there's no need to bring that back up.
all right. Let's go to our board and travel schedule. Superintendent.
Yes, last board meeting, we talked about with our new board being all remodeled and the investment in the equipment to run a highly effective virtual broadcast meeting. There was some discussion of whether should that be our home site that where we stay and we broadcast out and we make it known to our stakeholders that that's how they participate. It's either in person, they travel to Blanding, or we have a very effective virtual option. Or do we stay the course with how we had traditionally done it by rotating back and forth, Blanding and then a community, and going that route, and even possibly trying to transmit broadcast today. We are broadcasting using this OWL. But what we have learned from that was that our OWL it gets the job done to some degree, but we do usually get some concerns with the picture, the clarity, the sound, whether it's clear and effective, and it's been less than ideal, but it has done the job. So do you travel around and use a less effective system? And also, one of the other real drawbacks with the OWL is the manpower involved. I watched 3 people set that up for an hour. It looks really simple. You just set that out there. No, they were here working for quite a while so that we could do that. So if we're traveling around the district, that would increase our manpower needs to go to the different locations. to make sure we get set up and ready for board meeting. So keep that in mind. But anyway, through that discussion, I was directed to put together, working with the tech department, a survey to our stakeholders and to send it out. And you have attached with your board on the agenda there is the results. And I would just give you a few of my takeaways, and then I'd love to hear your takeaways. The first takeaway I take from this is I think we're dealing with 54 responses. Am I right on that? 52 responses. I can tell you right now, and I know our principals blasted this out on multiple times because I talked to them. And I know it was on our websites and their websites. It was on Facebook. When you see 52 responses in 3 weeks of pushing this out there, the first takeaway I have is there's a whole lot of stakeholders that are like, put your board meeting wherever you want to put your board meeting. I don't have a lot to say about it. Now, there are 52 that do, and I don't want to undersell their voice and their perspective. But when we were dealing with COVID, we got back almost 1,000 responses quickly. And so I know that when it's a hot topic, we've seen them go well up over 100 pretty quickly. So that told me right there, this is not, to our stakeholders, this is not a hot topic. It may become a hot topic, but at this point it's not. You see a breakdown of where our responses came from. Blanding has about half, and at first that may appear glaring, but then keep in mind that Blanding has about 40% or 45% of our parents and our students. So that's probably not necessarily that's probably a pretty accurate breakdown of where our population should come from. I would think Montezuma Creek's a little underrepresented. We didn't get much from that area. But anyway, then if we break it down, my takeaway again is that once we go into the data, if you want to go to the first question was just, do you have internet? That might be interesting to you. 6 do not, and the others do. I wondered about that. You know, if they don't have internet, then of course the broadcast isn't going to be very attractive to them. So you can kind of get the breakdown there. In the past few years, have you attended either in person? So I wanted to see if these are people that are attending. I don't know why we got the click to write close that one at the top. That is some kind of a glitch. But 36 did say they'd been to either a virtual broadcast or an in-person. So, and 16 have not. So if we go down further, in the future, I'd be more likely to attend virtually or in person. And we're about, what, 46 that would be more likely virtually, and about 8 would be more likely to attend in person. Now, some of that could also be in the Blanding area where if we were broadcasting virtually, they're close to attending in person if they'd like to as well. Next question. Which statement you agree with more? This was trying to get really at what we were looking at. Do you agree more with having a virtual school board meeting where parents and stakeholders can attend from anywhere and hear and view the meeting effectively is more important than having a school board meeting in my community once a year to attend in person? Or do you agree with this statement more? Having a school board meeting in my community once a year to attend in person is more important than a virtual school board meeting where parents and stakeholders can attend from anywhere and hear and view the meeting effectively. So that was kind of really trying to really pin down, you know, where do you think is the most important way that you have an effective, really quality virtual meeting to attend, or is it coming into your community? And you can see the breakdown there. There's about 12 that believe that in community and about 42 the other way, or 40. And again, my takeaway as I watched this was really what this is telling us, I think, is what we've learned in our last 10 years of watching us travel around. If maybe I'm wrong, Mary's got much more, she's been doing this as long as anyone in this room, and some of you have been doing a long time. I've been popping in and out of board meetings for a lot of years, but not directly in all of them, except for the last, the last 5 years. But generally, in my opinion, we have 3, 4, 5 people that might drop in most of our board meetings before we were broadcasting. And those 3, 4, 5 people, it was pretty important that meeting came to their community. That's why they were there. They appreciated it and they valued it. And that's probably who's speaking out of those voices right there. And I think when I look at that, I think, the real decision that has to be made is that, it's a tough decision. And I really, to be honest with you, I don't have a huge lean either way. I think we go either way, and let's just pick a way and go. But, is the virtual being effective and obviously reaching more people, but to those few people that thought it was very important, that would not meet their need? Or is it flipped? Do we give a far less quality virtual experience to the bigger group, but yet make sure that smaller group, those 3 or 4 or 5 people, know that what they valued greatly and was important? And I think the board's got to wrestle with that, and that's where our decision comes down. And I don't know that the survey changed a whole lot than what we kind of knew, but that's what we get anyway. So I'd love your takeaways or questions or concerns.
Comments? Yeah,
Well, a thought on people who don't have internet in their homes, isn't that what it was
Mhm.
asked? Has anybody here, and we have a community member, she is a school board candidate, so I would say maybe has a lot more interest than your regular, but we don't, other than Sheila, we don't have anybody here who chose to come because we're here, live in Monticello. But if any of you have connected virtually, did you do it at home on your computers or did you do it on your phone?
Connect from the golf course.
Because here's my thought, that question asking, do you have internet in your home? We do know a lot of people don't, but what I've learned, and I down on, in our southern area of the communities, of the county, and everybody's got a phone and everybody has Wi-Fi, and that's how we do our app. You had mentioned we have more and more people have access to their phone and they have Wi-Fi. So even if they don't have Wi-Fi in their home, when I Zoom, I do the USBA meetings sometimes from, I don't travel to all of them, but I just do it on my phone. I don't connect at home on my home internet. So I'm wondering if that would look a little bit different if, do you have the capability of accessing the meetings?
Well, even
From your phone.
most of them,
Casey did, right? You access from your phone.
So I would
Yeah.
just make a comment about that, Mary. Nelson, please speak up because you also live in the river region. But I would think that if you don't have Wi-Fi access to your phone service, the towers, you may not have good enough access to the meeting. But I think a lot of people watch it afterwards, like it's not just live streaming, right? So I think a lot of our parents, if they're accessing it, it isn't right real time if they're watching it. So they go somewhere they can access it. But I mean, Nelson can probably speak to the cell service even better than I can, but I know my phone doesn't work a lot of the time, so. Unless I'm on Wi-Fi.
and I would say that I assumed, and it's probably a very bad assumption though, but if they had phone internet in their home, I was hoping they would check yes here. I really was. I wasn't just thinking that they had home internet service. If they could get internet in their home was the idea. And if that's how it came through a phone or through a device, in my mind, that was a yes, but that may not have been written right.
I'm also going to speculate that while we're having these meetings, people they're not at home.
No, that's what you say. Exactly.
They're all
They're all
over
in our
the place.
schools
They're
right now.
golfing.
But people
You know
are
that.
not, they're not home.
All over the world.
They're all over the place and they've got their phones and they've got it playing and they're, accessing it wherever they are.
Wi-Fi or internet?
I think I used internet, so maybe, I think we went back and looked at that first
Because most
question.
people, I think, would be at-home service with that. question.
Probably
I
so.
would guess.
Yeah, but just,
That
do
was-
you have access to internet through your phone where you could access the school board meeting? And there are still some people who just don't have
I
service
was
where
even
they
still a
do.
little bit surprised
With
how
their
many were
phones.
yes on that.
But anyway,
But when I did.
Out of the
I can
52, there was
imagine
only
there's
6 that were
on
no.
reservation. There are a lot of homes on the reservation that don't have cell service. like you're saying with your
Oh,
location. And
yeah,
so it
if you're
could
there
be
with your phone.
that they do have to go somewhere else to watch the recording. So maybe those 6 responses were in conjunction with cell phone service and or Wi-Fi.
But Erin, I mean, you've tracked since we've gone virtual, 'cause we have to do it so often. I mean, the numbers are a lot higher when they can,
Yes, and
I mean, they come in higher than being live, obviously.
yeah, we get a lot of rewatches on those, and I would say that so far in this meeting, we've had 3 complaints about the audio. And those rewatches, it is important to remember that the system we have in the new boardroom picks up much better audio, so the rewatching experience is far superior than what this experience provides. So
Okay.
you are correct. We do get a lot more rewatches than we do live watches.
So this isn't, oh, go ahead, Nelson, sorry.
Well, let me ask you folks. What does it look and sound like when I'm at home? Coming over the air,
It's better in the boardroom.
and like Christine was saying, the challenges are signal. And I'm going off the phone tower. My internet's off the phone tower. I've had satellite dish, Wild Blue, HughesNet, poor quality. So Cellular One put up that tower in Ojeko. Then we were able to use part of that cost, but it's still not the best quality. So what about the system that we put in? Towers that were put in for the schools.
The RRLA system, or, yeah, so they would be able to access, and that might be part of why you see such a high yes answer, Superintendent. I would have to flush that out a little bit, but they would be able to utilize the RRLA system to access the board meeting. So that's a possibility, and that might have something to do with the reason we have such a large number of internet at residence, where you may not have cell signal, as was stated.
Anything else, Nelson?
So either way for me is fine.
Okay.
I mean, there's still going to be times that I'm not going to be able to drive up to the district for a board meeting. I'm still going to have to do what I got to continue to do. Before we've gone virtual, I remember previous board members and Mary and myself, we made a decision that we go to different campus, alternate, and have these board meetings, so we could have the staff come and join us at meetings, especially when we were giving presentations for the awards. So I still kind of like, I still like that idea. If the community is not going to be here, you've got staff there, which I don't get to see or visit them as much as other board members because it's in their community or they're closer. So it gives me an opportunity to see who's who. Okay.
Well, the only thing, I mean, so really out of staff for Monticello High School, we have 2 Olsen twins over there because
Right.
but they have to be here. They have to be here, which we're glad you're here, but otherwise they would come to the boardroom to present. So.
We can also allow for, with the technology we have at the district office, then they can appear virtually as
Yeah.
well and not have to travel. Not have to travel to Blanding, you know, so we can visit with our administrators from their community with the good technology. I get concerned about the manpower, as was mentioned before, when we have all of that sitting. I'm just, you know, I just don't like waste. And I feel like we've got all this money into this technology, into this new board meeting room, and that's sitting there in Blanding while we have all our tech people come and set this up and for hours before we come, then they sit here during our meeting, and I just see it as resources in our district that we're not using their time for the best interest of the district and of students. And that's my concern. I feel like I'm wasting resources by doing that.
Okay, so we do have this as an action item, so we can motion and vote on it. If that works for everybody. Okay. All right.
I have a comment.
Yes, Lucille.
Okay, the reason why I said to reach out to the communities is as board members, we work with the community and we try to reach out to the community. And then those that can't come up, we can come out to the school. And not all of us do go out to the schools and visit the schools and the staff and the students there. I mean, it gives them time to do that and for us to see what's going on at these different schools. We may not have a big attendance at these different schools. At least we go out and see what the schools are doing, or the teachers come in and the students can come in and see too, as well as the community members. And that's me. That's what I was thinking, was reaching out to our communities and being out there and, seeing the school. So if we just all go virtual, then we're not out there at the schools. So that's just my comment. But I do understand we're still under Navajo Nation health order. So that's another thing too.
Okay.
That's it.
Real quick, yeah, Lucille, thanks for your comments, because it made me think of something. So Lori's in the northern part of our district, so hopefully, Lori, you're interacting with the people in your community regularly and going into your schools and available for people so that they can have a real live person. And Steve and I in Blanding, and then being involved in our schools, going in schools, Nelson in your area, and then Lucille in your area. It occurred to me, in Blanding, we never sit inside of any of the schools to hold a board meeting. They come into, but we don't interact with classrooms and things when we hold board meetings, because our board meetings are in the late afternoon, evening. And so I think as board members, and USBA has the MBA awards thing that we're supposed to, work on. I do those things anyway, but maybe we should make an effort to, as individual board members, to make sure we are interacting within our communities, going into the schools. And then it doesn't have to be with a board meeting, in conjunction with the board meeting, that maybe we should make a better effort to be doing that into all of our schools and being available at PTA or PTO meetings, be available at our, what are they called, community council meetings, and at events that the school holds, that we can do those things, and it doesn't have to be in conjunction with the board meeting to interact with our public.
Thank you. All right. I guess you're first, Jenna.
Oh,
Just,
Well, I am first on the list.
well, all right. Come on up,
First on the
please.
list. I'd like to vote before. Am I gonna sit in the chair?
But I made you go first last year.
I know, I would, yeah, next time it's Casey's turn.
Then you get it all over with, right?
Yeah, but then, well, at least he's not here. He gets to listen to what I don't say, and then he gets to sound smarter sometimes.
All
He's
right.
back there taking notes.
He is right now.
We, okay. Questions? Or would you like her to speak to herself?
I guess I would
I'm
like,
looking at you, Steve.
Oh,
You go right ahead if you have one. Yes. If not, we'll let her. Yep, go ahead.
appreciate your goals, 80%, reach typical, above typical, you know. So you have the 80% there. I was just wondering how aggressive of a goal that is. I didn't know.
Both
where
of our
you're at
goals are
now,
like-
or-
Both of our goals are 3 or 4% growth. So last year was the first year of Acadian's math. And so we only did it in the lower grades. And this year we're doing the upper grades. So there's not really any data that we've collected on grades K through 6 yet on math. So it's our first year that we'll be trying doing that Acadians with 6, 4, 5, and 6 too. And so it's kind of just a good estimate. It's about 4% higher than what K through 3 did last year.
So Jenna, because I would love everybody to hear this, I'm gonna ask. So I was able to go into their classroom when she did training with her staff. And when you talk about the emotional side and the class meetings, I love that. And we even got a lunch. It was so fun. You gotta tell how that works, and because this is on your slide. This is
So
part of your theme.
we're
And why you decided to do this.
So, if you notice on our slides, a couple of things that we have concerns about this year is, and in years past, is that last year we had about double the office referrals that we've ever had. And our students with special needs, the ones that are on IEPs, we have 25% increase in 1 year. 25% of our student population that are on an IEP are move-ins within the past year. So we're seeing an increasingly different population that we've seen in the past in Monticello Elementary. And with that has come some social and emotional needs from students. And I would like to say that giving teachers the opportunity to express their concerns as well. So we've started to do restorative circles class meetings with our students on Friday afternoons. And something to so a class meeting sets up as just a restorative circle where they sit around in the circle and questions are posed. We have an agenda for teachers, so it comes pretty easy. I make a little video about something that they can talk about. I try to do minimal work on a teacher's part, more on mine and Liesl Johnson, our school counselor's part. And the students get an opportunity to have their voices be heard. They get to sit around in the circle and they have the opportunity to say things that they're concerned about or things that went well for them that week. And then a couple of minutes to plan what the next week might look like. Like, oh, we've got a field trip on Wednesday. Don't forget your permission slip. But just to give students the opportunity to be able to have a little voice. It's kind of where we went with that. And am I missing something, Lori, that you were hoping that I would say?
Did you try that yet?
Yep, we've been doing it since the first week of school. So something that was kind of cool is last week we had 3 families come in and pick up their kids. It's typical for some families to come in on Fridays, like right after lunch, and try to sneak their kids out a half hour early. We had a little girl throwing a fit in the lobby last Friday, not this Friday, but last Friday, that she didn't want to go home because she was going to miss her class meeting. So something to kind of celebrate. The kids are enjoying it. They're appreciating it.
So this, she did have like a talking stick, so you cannot speak unless you are holding that and it passes around. And you can either talk or not. You can pass them if you want, but I thought it was great because I think when the kids, they address their needs, that the other kids are aware. You can say, oh yeah, I can help you or whatever, but.
For sure. And it's kind of visually, it's good to see that a teacher is sitting around in a circle with kids. Like when I go in and I do it, I sit on the floor with the kids. So they know that their voice is as important as an adult's voice, that we want to be able to hear them and see where they're coming from and help them fix whatever they need help fixing. And not kids against the principal is what I'm hoping. What you get across.
A clarification, was that a whole class?
A whole class, each and every Friday at 12:30, when we all get back from lunch, we all circle up, is what I call it. And we circle up and we talk about, we have an agenda, it's got 3 items on it. Celebrations you want to say that happened really amazing to you this week. And they'll go around once, and then things that they're concerned about, maybe on the playground or in the lunchroom, they go around once, and then we do anything that we might need to talk about for next week. Anything to be prepared for. So it's working out pretty good.
Quick question. Does it, the word, has it encourage kids to say things that, anything that maybe you wouldn't want, somebody wouldn't want them to say? I mean, or is it not gone there?
That's,
Do you know what I'm saying?
elementary kids are always saying things that you don't want them to say.
I know, that's
Not about you, right? But like, Mrs. Wilson, you're looking a little weird today. But besides, no, we haven't seen anything that has made us increase our concern about any kids at the school. We really try to stick to celebrations at school, right? Concerns that you're having at school and things that are happening at school, how we can help with that. And if we hear or see something, we usually meet one-on-one with kids if we have concerns. So it circle time is not really the time
to do
to bring
that.
that
Yeah,
kind of
that's
stuff
what I
up.
was just.
Mhm. Yeah,
Okay.
we haven't seen anything concerning
Okay,
that I've
great.
been notified of, but we are, me and Liesl Johnson, we pop into everybody's classes between that 12:30 and 1 o'clock time. And we start to see things that kids on the school level are concerned about. So things that we can address to help the school run a little more smoothly. So
Find out a few things. that you're like,
we're, if
"Oh,
we're
that's
hearing
a
in second
problem.
grade,
We
the same
didn't know
things as
that."
fourth grade, the same thing as fifth grade, and if lots of the kids are having the same concern, then that's something we need to address on system-wide rather than just classroom-wide. So it's been really great so far.
Questions? Steve Nelson?
Yeah, I have a question on your goals, number 3.
Yes.
Um, and this is what, again, I mentioned and talked about earlier. I don't know what your school was like when the survey was taken.
Yes.
Was the question pertaining to the bullying survey that you've done, was that pertaining to last year when the kids were in school or the prior year before that?
So the Oveus bullying survey is given district-wide. I am pretty sure it's on our registration, and so district-wide we give out that. And the questions are interesting in nature and can be a little bit confusing, but they'll be like, have you been bullied within the last week? Have you been bullied in the last month? Have you been bullied at school in the last year? So I think it all did have to pertain to last year when we were all in the building. But they did have a couple of different questions. We were specifically focusing on the question that had to do with the year, if you felt like you had been bullied that year.
I'm just trying to see how this 80% is a high number that came up. Was it because there was less students in school because of COVID? Were they taking classes?
So we
over
want to
the
get it
year?
up to 80.
Is that why there's less bullying that year then? Is that what I'm
So
thinking?
there's more than there has been in the past. We're just setting a pretty lofty goal. We've really pinpointed it to a couple of things. We've done a couple teacher evaluation, like teacher surveys, and then we've done our school community council has talked about maybe some possible misconceptions, and we have done some surveys when it comes to our Hope Squad, which is 6th grade students who work with our school counselor. And there's been some misconceptions on what bullying is, that it might be a word that's maybe possibly being overused, and that there can be some clarification in that area. And so something I'm doing to make it a little more clear for kids is that when they leave my office, the new process is, hey, you guys weren't bullies today. Today you were just you made a bad choice or you made a tough choice, and this is not a bullying situation. So that kids understand that when they made a mistake or when they did something weird, that's not the same thing as being a bully. And so I'm trying to use the same kind of language when I call parents and talk to parents about it. Hey, this is not a situation about bullying. We did not bully at school today. So we're hoping to get just a little more clarification, make a little bit clearer perspective for parents, students, teachers, and the teachers are doing the same thing on the playground.
It's a good number. I like the numbers.
We would like to see less people feeling like they're being bullied at
You
school.
found 25% of your students.
Yep, 25% of the students.
And I don't know nationally how that would compare. That's probably.
It's higher than the national average, what they said on the bullying survey.
So and why do you feel it's increased so much in the last year?
So according to the teachers from the teacher survey, I can't speak for myself, I don't think, but I can say what the teachers said, and the teachers feel that people are misusing the word bully. So that's why I chose to do what I do, is that I'm going to clear that up just a little bit with the students and with the parents and with our staff.
Do you
So-
want to share,
so
do you want to share with the board what criteria you use to determine bullying?
So
And we try to do this throughout the district.
now you're gonna put me on spot. I should have wrote it on my slide. I'm gonna lose one. This is where you'll get me wrong. So it has to be like repetitive in nature. It can't just be one circumstance where somebody had a bad day.
So
Yep, it has to be repetitive in nature, continuous over and over and over again, not over and over and over again, but multiple times. There has to be an imbalance of power. So it could be multiple kids against another kid. It could be an older kid against a younger kid.
even a bigger kid against the little.
Yep, bigger kid, someone with a disability, something along those lines, that could be considered bullying. And then, repetitive, and it has to be mean, it has to
Intent
cause
or-
harm, yep,
Intent to hurt.
So
and
three
intent to
things.
harm, has to cause harm, yep,
Those all make
3
sense.
criteria.
Nice.
And I would add, we're finding that I like what Mrs. Olson is saying, because we're finding that if you get on social media, if you get on, those platforms, and you just follow them, everything is bullying. If your kid got pushed in the lunch line today, he got bullied, and that's not technically bullying. That is a bad choice.
Yeah.
By a student, and we teach kids about choices and consequences and all that, but that's not bullying unless it happens from a 5th grader to a 4th grader and it's happening every day. And we know that 5th graders, then it turns in, that is bullying. So
All bad behavior is not.
no,
bullying.
all bad behavior is not bullying. So yes, I like. what
Well,
you're
and I
saying.
don't think people are using it. They're not trying to be malicious in nature when they're using the word bullying. People just know that when you use the word bully, people act. And they act fast. And so I want them to know that I'm gonna act fast, whether it's behavioral intervention or if it's an actual case of bullying, that we're acting fast. So.
Perfect. Very good. Okay. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks, Jenna.
And I cannot wait till the end of the year to find out how all the meetings went.
I'm keeping just great notes. The teachers will.
It was fun.
It was,
I think it was fun.
we circled up the teachers.
Mm-hmm.
So all the teachers sat down and yep, and everybody got a little talking piece. We all got this little heart stone that's like a rock, that's a heart. And so everybody got their little piece, and we talked about how I like to pick out one
Yeah.
woman because that's who I think is.
She even brought us to sack lunch. It was
Well,
awesome.
we were like little kids, and we all got our little string cheese and our
Where'd you do
juice
this?
box
She did it in her.
out in the 15th,
On the 15th?
down at the district,
At
down
hers
at
and-
San Juan High. So everybody got, we acted like kids. I gave everybody their little snack, their juice box, and they got string cheese. You either loved it or you hated it. but thank you very
Well, the thing is, I could tell they were just, the teachers were a little bit apprehensive, but as far as kind of, I think 'cause they were learning what to do and
Yeah.
what to say and how to make that work, but I'm sure I'll have to go over and check it out in like a month or so.
You should go sit down in a circle. It's
I will.
quite amazing.
I
It's
will.
it's fun.
It was
It's fun.
So, thank you. Okay, Mr. Olson, your turn.
Try to smile.
Yeah, talk
You
that
know,
way.
she's bullying you. Should we go through the 3 items?
She's just making a poor choice.
She's Can you believe that?
And I just made a
Yes,
poor
I'm
choice.
sorry.
That was funny. Okay, who would like to start? Do you push it?
Your staffing challenge that you put down there seems kind of like it's everywhere. We're not immune to that in Monticello or San Juan School District. What's your take on that? Why it's harder to get staff now as opposed to previously when the population hasn't really changed that much?
I think a lot of that is, this is all my opinion, but I think there's several things that we're battling. Right now in Utah, there's a teacher shortage. So when I talk about staff, we had issues getting certified staff to apply this year. We actually took one position and combined it with another one. Our ag teacher, our woodshop teacher is now the same teacher after we ran it. And some of that is Utah State's requirement for ag, and there's some different components. The other one is that is even more is paraprofessionals. I think starting salary is $14 for paraprofessionals. Maverick is $14. We love our paraprofessionals. They have a huge job, but it's much more requiring than charging somebody for a soda at Maverick. So I think that's a lot of it is I think at one point in time, the district, and this isn't our district, I think this is a lot of districts, because I think paraprofessionals paid throughout the states probably similar opinions, but I think we've kind of, yeah, I can go to Moab, and a lot of our community is currently traveling to Moab to work. The ones that we used to pick up for our paraprofessional jobs, and they're making 19, 20 bucks an hour. So that's being
And not
competitive.
doing that, but doesn't seem like that
My,
would be beneficial.
my boy did the math and decided it wasn't and stayed here working at doing something elsewhere. But I think that's, yeah, I think, so two different things summarized was the requirements, I think are hard. And they have to be. We demand a lot. We're educating students and we need highly qualified people here that will help educate the students. So there's some pressure there. And then the salary, the pay.
Appreciate your thoughts on that.
Mary? Nelson, did you have something? Mhm.
I think Steve covered my question.
I'm always a little bit curious about the aftermath of COVID and how much for those students who chose not to come, if that, if they're making the adequate progress. I mean, I don't know how many you have, but that, because we had students sit out that year.
Yeah.
when we had held school. So have you seen adequate progress in those students that chose not to come?
I think for the most part, last year we were able to raise, 2 years ago, we were 88% graduation rate. I think the 12% was online. Last year was 5% who didn't graduate. They were online. I think, and we're still seeing the echoes. We're getting kids back that have decided, hey, this was not worthwhile. And we're working our tail off because now they're a year behind on credit. And there's quite a few kids that are falling in that range that I think we'll get them, but it's an uphill battle because they did not make adequate progress while they were gone. And we still have a few that are choosing to stay online that aren't making adequate progress. For the most part, the ones that we have now, I think that are remaining online are the ones that are doing better. We still have a few, but it's not like, I think at one point in time, we had somewhere around the neighborhood of 40 and maybe 2 were making adequate progress out of the 40. That was several years ago data, not
Yeah.
current.
Okay.
And we're not running the same statistics now. I'd have to look closer, but it's much better, but yeah.
So kind of to tie in Steve's question with that and paraprofessionals, has that been a lot of, and I can imagine that it is a lot of extra stress for staff to have to make up a year or two of students choosing not to be here. And then, kind of the buck stops at the school to get these students caught up. That's just a huge concern of mine. And we have that opportunity, but also that obligation. And it seems overwhelming to me what needs to be done to get some of these students up. So
Absolutely. I think we've got kind of 2 different things going on right now that's just compounding it too, in my opinion. I know Assistant Superintendent Julie Holt, like maybe 6-7 years ago, it was been a while ago, MES, same board meeting, had quite ample data showing that the demographics of Monticello are moving. Jenna alluded to it, and we didn't coordinate. She alluded to it with her special ed kids moving in. So I think we have 2 things. We've got the COVID slide and the data she presented on had been collected for years. We're still, the slide hasn't stopped. So we've got demographics changing in a community and COVID. So I think there's 2 issues occurring. So
it can be discouraging to work harder and feel like with some students you're a little further, getting further behind. But,
absolutely.
okay, I was just wondering how much it still exists, and it sounds like it very much exists. Monticello as well as the
We-
district.
We are, every single one of like the positions here, paras, which is tiring, like I picked on her by name, so I don't shoot mine, but like Allie Black, our Edgenuity, so she's doing all of our Edgenuity, which the Edgenuity demand is bigger because we're doing a lot more credit recovery. But in order to maintain and pick it up, she's also taking on a caseload of like student success stuff that, so we've got all of our pairs that are doing some double dipping too and have a load of kids that, hey, we can't let kids fall in between the cracks. And there's enough kids that you got to do this job. And when you have an extra 30 minutes, you need to check in on these kids. And so we're trying to think creative, but it is, the demand is getting bigger.
How many paras are you working with?
So special ed wise, we have 3 pairs serving 39 kids across 6 grade levels. We have, those are our only ones that are designated to academic support, like helping directly. We have an Edgenuity online facilitator.
Is
2
he
online.
helping take on extra responsibilities too?
He's got a caseload as well. Yep.
Good.
Yep. He's got 8 kids that,
Really?
and they were handpicked that I think he'll connect with. And yeah, so he's got some as well. That's it.
So we only have 2 paras? We have another-
So we have the sped pairs who are directly working academics. We have a student success para, 1
Oh.
position, the Edgenuity para, and we have 2 online facilitators. So we do not have, and they're all working directly with academic support, but really the sped pair is the only one that's what they were directly hired for. The rest is
Right.
just a added bonus they've got to help us function and continue to educate kids.
That's a big challenge with your lack of paras. So, anything else you'd like to add?
No, I don't think so.
No. Okay. No. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks.
Great. All right, we will go back to our agenda and we'll hit number 8 and number 9. So those are both yours.
Yeah, so this is a first reading for a spend plan, so this is your public's first opportunity to see this and the boards as well. This just adds postseason play that was not put in the original spend plan. Whitehorse and Monument Valley have always been independent. There's been no postseason. Now they are 8-player football, and there is most likely a postseason opportunity for them. So that needed to be added in. And again, that next month, they did change that. These can now be approved after 2 public viewings. So in our next board meeting, it used to be 3 when it started, now it's down to 2. We could approve this next month. And if there are no questions, the way we kind of thought we'd be doing this in the future, unless the board wants to go a different direction, is unless there's concerns, we'd just move it over into the consent agenda, and it'll be approved in a consent agenda. Anyway, that's how many districts are handling both trust land amendments and spend plan changes, because and we probably don't deal near with the volume that many of the bigger ones do, but they did talk about how they were dealing with the volume, and that's one of the ways they were doing it. So if we want to do it that way, we can. If we don't feel it's okay. We don't have that volume, so if we don't want to go that route. But anyway, be aware of that. And then
The extracurricular.
the extracurricular, this just comes from Principal Schaefer. There's been some changes to their schedules. And she's trying to keep us up to date on any of those. The one that is particularly of interest to the board is the one that requires the 150 miles action item. And that would be to, what's that one to? That's to Gallup. Yes, that was Gallup.
155 miles.
It's just
So
over
5
that.
over. Any questions on that board?
And
We are done with the regular agenda, so I think we will take the time to go into closed session because we do have things to discuss.
I think we could go into that conference room right there would be the
Alright.
best place to go for that.
Are they? Okay.
The only thing is we'll need, Lucille, is she still online? Lucille, are you still there? My phone doesn't have a lot of battery, and I think she's gonna have to call someone. What's your battery?
I'm still here.
Do you have Lori's phone number? Because when we go and close, if you could call in, that would be good. This is another thing that we're set up in Blanding to handle very
Let me
better
see.
than ever.
Or you have my number, Lori.
Let me look. I'm sure I do. But then there's a lot of things I think I have and I don't. So, yep. It ends in 6133.
9015.
I have two for you. Hold on.
Does the other one work?
Let me delete this one.
The one I called you on, Superintendent?
I have you. So, okay,
Okay, sounds good.
I need a motion to go into closed session to discuss personnel. Is that right, Superintendent? Only
Yes.
personnel. So I need roll call.
Mary.
Lucille,
Well, we don't have a, did we have a motion?
No, not yet.
I made the motion, sorry. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? to go into closed session?
Lucille Cody, second. Okay.
Sorry, yes.
Who made the motion?
You said. you can motion.
No, she can't.
I know, that's what I
Oh,
thought.
I'm sorry. I thought.
I will make a motion to go into closed session for personnel.
Thank you. Second.
Lucille Cody,
All right, okay, sorry, thank you. Roll call.
Mary Shumway, yes.
Steve Black, yes.
Lori Mon, yes?
Nelson Yellman, yes.
Lucille Cody, yes.
Okay. I will call you, Lucille. Okay, thank you. Thank you for reminding me. I thought they had done that. No, for sure. That was great, sorry.
That may be sooner, but then that.
Okay. Where did your wife go?
Yeah,
Is she
a
coming
phone
back?
call.
Oh, okay.
She's behind the desk over there.
All right, so welcome to the public portion of our meeting, and we're going to give our San Juan Squared Recognition Awards. So we're glad that you join us. We appreciate you being here and what you do. So Regan, you get to be first.
Okay.
You'll come up to the front. Yep, you
Come
get to
up
come
here.
up to the front. You get to
Come up here with us. Front and center. All right. Oh, yeah, sorry, I didn't grab that. So, okay. Now, Regan was nominated by Jenna Olson. Regan McDaniel has stepped into his role as a special education teacher with years of classroom experience. His classroom expertise has given him great insight to how best help the students at Monticello Elementary. He is a valued member of our school leadership and always brings amazing suggestions on how to implement our 90-day plan action steps with efficiency and accuracy. He is held in such high regard by his fellow faculty members, students, and families. Thank you, Regan, for making MES a great place to go to school.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thanks so much. Can I take a picture?
Yeah.
This is for you. Oh,
Good job.
here, you can keep that. Those
We'll probably print you
100%.
up a better one than.
Oh, okay.
Eva will always.
You
Take
can
that.
that. And
He's
you'll
gonna
get
use
a
that
better
as
one.
evidence at a later
And
time.
you'll get a
Someone
better
thought I
one.
did something good.
All right, Elisa Rogers. Come on up here, folks. Felt like Mr. Olson was like real awkward. There you go. She was nominated by Principal Casey Olson. Elisa Rogers is in a constant, relentless pursuit to get her students to learn at high levels. Mrs. Rogers' efforts are apparent year after year on the MHS RISE scores. If you visit her classroom, you will find highly engaged students in a safe, productive environment. Thank you, Mrs. Rogers, for impacting the lives of many past, future, and present students. Thank you.
I would add to that, I I think she's one of just a few that have qualified for the highly incentive effective teacher bonus for like the last 5 or 6
How many
years.
have you received?
Oh, I think every year.
Track. I
So
just-
this last year, that was $7,000.
Thank you. All right, thanks. It was.
Okay, they're going in the newsletter.
Watch for the chords.
Greg was nominated by Casey Elson. He says, Greg Adams has delivered MHS students to events covering a large geographic area. While on trips, he helps in any way he can. He always has a smile on his face and is truly a joy to work with. Thank you, Greg, for all the safe trips.
How many years? 39 years of delivering kids. And we love our bus drivers, but 39 years. Greg, thank you for all you do.
You bet.
Yeah, that is amazing. That is awesome.
Thank you for coming. We appreciate this opportunity to honor the good employees that we have within our district and to give them the recognition that they deserve. So we just, from this point, we actually have some agenda items. You're welcome to stay if you want, because we are super fun to be here and listen to, or you're welcome to leave. So either way, you're fine. But thank you for being here with us. And no public, no further. Correct?
You're worried about.
Okay.
And I don't blame them at all. Thanks to all of you who came to support our great employees too and be here for, thank you for this. Thanks so much.
Okay. All right, we will.
Thank you guys.
All right. Seeing we have no citizens' comments, we will move. We have already gone into closed session and completed that part of the agenda. So we'll go down to the consent agenda. This also includes the spend plan and amendments, as you can see. So we won't have to make a motion on that spend plan that we had as a discussion item. So.
Yeah, it's not on this one.
Oh, that's right. So we'll be, okay, you're right,
It would be in
thank
this
you. All right, so I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move that the consent agenda be approved.
Second the motion.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, the first one on our action items is the Utah Food Bank request. If we have a motion to approve the, that would be the agreement that was before us and to move forward with that.
I would like to entertain a motion to move forward with the contract regarding the Utah Food Bank request for land for the Monument Valley land.
Okay, motion by
Second.
Ms. Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Ms. Hill? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I'll throw it out there. Do we need to make a motion for the capital steps or do we just give enough direction? Probably enough direction, what we're gonna do.
Do you feel like you have enough direction to get a plan that would,
Yeah,
if we need
Yeah.
an actual plan? that we
from our
can-
discussion earlier, I didn't feel like we were ready to move to spend the money to do the evaluation with an architecture firm. So yeah, when we receive, as soon as we receive the application information, we'll start putting together that information for the multiple different projects, and we'll bring that back to October.
Okay, thank you, Tyra. All right, number 3, the 22-23 San Luis School District Board meeting location site to keep it at our new, our updated revised facility in Blunt. We have a motion for that?
The way we have it set up right now is we follow our calendar, which is rotating. So if there's no motion, we just stay with the calendar. If there's a motion to change that, now would be the time to entertain.
I move to move the location of the remainder of school board meetings in 2022 to 2023 to the district office.
Okay,
I'll second the motion.
all right, any comments?
I
Okay,
just want to,
go ahead.
yeah, I will add that being on the USBA board and having on that, I would like, whether we report it to our USBA Master Boards Awards or not, I would like to encourage all of us to, if we're not already making the effort, to attend things and interact with our communities, to do that and not feel like having a board meeting in those locations is the only way we can interact, that we all make it a good effort to interact. Okay,
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, sorry, Nelson.
Post.
Oh, okay, you're opposed. Lucille?
Opposed. Lucille Cody opposed.
Okay. Did you get that, Tyra?
Yes.
San Juan School District Policy 5310. This is the materials, the library book approval or removal of that process. This is what that policy is. We'll double check. Sensitive materials policy.
I move to accept San Juan School District Policy 5310.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? San Juan School District Policy 5320, which is a curriculum selection.
I move to approve the changes proposed in policy 5320.
Okay, motion by Steve, do we have a second?
A second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 All right, number 6, USU Monument Valley lease agreement to approve that. So USU can continue, or we enter into that lease agreement so they can continue with that building process.
I will entertain a motion to approve the lease agreement contract with USU and between USU College and San Juan School District.
Okay, motion by Nelson, do I have a second?
Second.
Lucille Cody second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And our last one, White Horse High School extracurricular changes from the, on the 150-mile form. We can get a motion for that.
I move to accept the extracurricular changes for White Horse High School in that 150-mile form.
Okay, motion by Mary.
Second.
Second, Lucille.
Put them all down. Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Lucille, did you say aye?
Yes, I said aye.
Thank you. All right, we'll turn the information items over to the superintendent.
Okay, so our next board meeting then would be October 12th. It'll be at the district office and it'll be virtual. And then a couple of things to September 18th to 20 is the Naples conference. Tyrell, myself, and I think Steve, you're attending that as well. So we will go back and attend that conference and visit with our representatives as we can make appointments. and go back and lobby for our impact aid funds. And one that I left off there that I don't want to miss is our fall USBA regional meeting is October 11th at 6 p.m. at the district office.
Yeah.
In
Moab.
Moab.
Oh, it's in
It's in
Moab.
Grants
Excuse me. Yes, it's in
District
Grants. Thank you. So put that on your calendar and plan, we'll start getting who can be there, but would like to get a good turnout.
Will you send out a carpool?
Mhm. Absolutely. Carpool.
We also have, I think, some board members attending.
I will be attending the 2022 National Johnson Memorial Conference in Las Vegas next week. 18th through the 22nd.
Are you as well, Lucille?
Yes, I am.
We have our JOM committee and both Brenda and Trevor will be attending that. We're well represented there.
Great. Anything else? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.